Hello and welcome. We're wrapping up the first week in 2018, so I think I still have time to squeeze in the New Year book tag 2018, because the year's still pretty new. I was tagged for this activity by Richardson Reads, and I'm not sure where this tag originated, but I will link to his responses in the details below. So, the New Year's really my favorite time of the year. Coming out of December, is for me a month of sort of reflection and nostalgia, and then we hit the new year, and that's all about potential, because the year hasn't happened yet, so it's full of potential. And so, I find it to be really an exciting time of the year. So I think this tag is going to be fun to do. This really addresses, the reading year to come. So let's just jump into it. So the first question is, how many books are you planning to read in 2018? Well, I set my low bar for reading books at 30. This is my priority reading list. Is my priority, right? So this is 30 books. So I set a goal when I started the priority reading list. Is that is the list I'm going to read these books. So that's my minimum. I set that as a goal. That allows for I do hope to get through the list relatively early in the year, and that way I can free read after that. But setting my goal at 30 really allows me to, if I want to explore other things and devote less time to reading, I can still get some good quality reading in by reading off my priority list, and then still do other things if I want to. Maybe I want to explore the film works of David Lynch, for example, or some other, I want to go off at some other avenue. I'm free to do that, but I would still get this minimum of 30 read. Of course, I would like to read more. I would really like to hit more like 52. That's a really good balance for me, balancing work and other things. If I can read about, on average, a book a week, I feel like that's really good for me. But the minimum I'm setting is 30. So question number two. Name 5 books that you didn't get to this year but want to make a priority in 2018. So yeah, I did have some books in mind for my 2017 free reading period, as well as my rereading period in December that I didn't have time to get to. So the first one of those is Death's End by Cixin Liu. This is a Chinese science fiction writer. Death's End is the third of the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, or sometimes called the Three-Body trilogy. I didn't get a chance to read the third one. I read the second one in the series, and so I want to finish out this series because it's really good. It's about an alien civilization that's discovered back during the Cultural Revolution. This is Chinese science fiction translation, back in the Cultural Revolution, there is an alien civilization discovered, sort of through a SETI kind of thing, and contact is made, and then an invasion ensues. So that's occurred over the first 2 of the books in this series, and the third one will finish it out, so I'm looking forward to that very much. And then the second book I want to get to is American Philosophy, a Love Story. This book came highly recommended by Richardson Reads and others who have read this. So I really wanted to get to this in my free reading period, but ran out of time. This is by Kaag, and just a blurb about it. John Kaag is a dispirited young philosopher at sea in his marriage and his career when he stumbles upon West Wind, a ruin of an estate in the hinterlands of New Hampshire that belonged to the eminent Harvard philosopher William Ernest Hawking. And the book goes on to say, part intellectual history, part memoir, American Philosophy is ultimately about love, freedom, and the role that wisdom can play in turning one's life around. This just sounds right up my alley, and I really wanted to get to this in 2017, but I didn't. But I do plan to get to it at some point during 2018. So yeah, number 3 is a reread, A Man in Full by Tom Wolfe. I read this a few years ago, and I wanted to reread it in December, but I ran out of time. So I do hope to get to rereading this in this coming December of 2018. This takes place in late 1990s. Atlanta mostly, a series of characters whose lives all intertwine. It's of interest to me to reread, really, because one of the characters, a young man who gets in trouble with the law and winds up in prison, discovers Stoic philosophy. And so when I read this originally, I had not read a lot of Stoic philosophy. So now that I've read more Stoic philosophy, I'm real anxious to revisit this work and sort of see how that all plays out, because I don't have a good memory of that. This book, A Man in Full, was nominated for the National Book Award for Fiction back in, I think, 1998. So it was really good. And when I read it a few years ago, I just would really like to revisit that. Then another work I would love to read is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I had planned to get to this in my free reading period. I read Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf during my priority must-read list last year, and I did want to get to this as well last year, but I ran out of time, so I do hope to get to this as well. Just what this is about real quickly. I have a blurb here. To the Lighthouse is a novel by Virginia Woolf, a landmark novel of high modernism. The text centering on the Ramsay family and their visits to the Isle of Skye in Scotland between 1910 and 1920 skillfully manipulates temporality and psychological exploration, which I also kind of got that vibe from Mrs. Dalloway, and Mrs. Dalloway wound up being one of my most enjoyable reads of the year. So looking forward to getting to the Lighthouse this year. And then finally, this is kind of a quirky work, Forecast by Shya Scanlon. I had read, in 2016, I read The Guild of St. Cooper by Shya Scanlon. I had hoped also reread this in December, but didn't have time. The Guild of St. Cooper's St. Cooper is Cooper, the FBI agent Cooper from Twin Peaks. This has a real David Lynch vibe, so if you're into David Lynch films, this book might be for you. And then his other work, which is kind of it's actually a set before the Guild of St. Cooper, Forecast. I wanted to get to this year. Actually, I wanted to get to it for a couple of years now. But the blurb on this is: the year is 2212. The weather is out of control, and Seattle is being rebuilt with electricity generated from negative human emotion. In a strange and turbulent world fueled by secrecy and voyeurism, a bored housewife named Helen vanishes, and citizen surveillant Maxwell Point, the man whose job it's been to watch her, must recount the years leading up to her disappearance. So it sounds really good, and I really did enjoy The Guild of St. Cooper. It took me a while. When I read The Guild of St. Cooper, I had not seen the original TV show Twin Peaks by David Lynch from back in the early 90s. I have since watched that series, and so I really wanted to reread this book in light of that, and then I definitely wanted to also get to Forecast. So those are really the top 5 books that I didn't get to in 2017 that I hope to get to at some point in 2018. So, okay, number 3. What genre do you want to read more of? Well, hard-boiled detective fiction and noir fiction, but hard-boiled detective fiction, I do have a couple of those works on my priority reading list, so I do hope to jump into that genre. I've never read any of that genre, so I will be jumping into this genre of hard-boiled detective fiction in 2018, and then I do hope to also, maybe in my free reading period, pick up a little noir fiction, and then also I really would like to read some spy thrillers, specifically Cold War era spy thrillers. So vintage. I would like to read some spy thrillers actually written during the Cold War. But spy thrillers is another genre that I haven't read any of, I don't think. If I have, it was years and years ago. So that's a genre I would also like to explore. So number 4, name 3 non-book related goals in 2018. All right, so non-book related. One is writing. I'm working on a nonfiction work of nonfiction that I don't want to talk about too much right now, but I do have writing plans set out for that. I'm trying to discipline myself to be structured with that. And then also with my work travel is picking up a little bit, and I want to make sure I'm eating good, so that's a goal. And then exercise, same thing. Traveling, sometimes it's hard to eat well and also exercise. So I'm hoping, I've made that a goal. Some of my travel will be to New York City, so there's a good place to do a lot of walking, right? So I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to be fun. Number 5, what's a book that you've had forever that you still need to read? That is 1491, New Revelations of the Americas Before Columbus by Charles C. Mann. I have had this book, I think, since it came out, which was 2005. So I've had this book a good long while, and it is still like new because I have never read it. And I think the reason is because I think it's such a tragic story of what happened to the cultures and the civilizations after 1492 that I have to kind of steel myself to visit that world, but I really want to because I don't think I have a real good picture of what the Western Hemisphere looked like before the Europeans, and I want to get a better understanding of that. So maybe this will be my year to finally knuckle under and get 1491 read. All right, one word that you're hoping 2018 will be. This is one of those things that always sounds kind of like a cliche, right? I think I'll go with one of the P's. Peace, prosperity, peace or prosperity. Let's go with peace and prosperity. That's two words, but I'm wishing everybody peace and prosperity in 2018. Number 7, tag a friend. I don't know, we're running out of time for this tag, I think, because the new year is receding into the background, but anybody who hasn't done this tag and thinks this would be fun to do, I would love to hear your responses. If you don't do videos and you want to share any of your answers to any of these questions in the comments below, I would also love to see that. So I think I will close the tag with that, and Happy New Year again. Until next time, take care. Bye.